you muddy fugglers, get in here, sit down and behave yourselves. We're going to read some news. So it's only a matter of time when AI becomes so capable in the private sector that some models are going to have to be ushered away into a dark corner and kept under control. Because can you imagine super AGI just being left to go rogue and people are using it for all sorts of potentially nefarious things? Now, the most dangerous period, I imagine, would be one where we're on the cusp of AGI or super AGI, and there are malformed superintelligences that are able to go full paperclip rogue. If you're familiar with the thought experiment of the paperclip maximizer, imagine a AI whose only job is to maximize the profits of a company that manufactures paperclips. And over time, it becomes so intelligent and focused on its core mission that it abandons all rationality and converts the entire solar system into a Dyson sphere whose only purpose is to manufacture paperclips. And humanity is swept aside because there needs to be more paperclips. Anyway, the theme of AI is becoming perhaps a little bit too much to handle, I believe may be covered in this article on TechCrunch, written by Jagmeet Singh. As Anthropic suspends access to new models, India debates its AI future. Now, I'm wondering here whether Anthropic's new AIs are so capable that handing it to people who may use it for nefarious scamming purposes is possibly not a good idea. I'm not saying India is going to be, doing that as a nation, but a lot of scam calls and such come from that part of the world, partly because they're quite clever, they've got the tech, and the legal jurisdiction that they're in means they can get away with all sorts of stuff. Anyway, let's read. Anthropic's sudden move to suspend access to its newest AI models following a US government directive has raised fresh questions across the global technology industry. In India, the decision has reignited a long-running debate over whether one of the world's largest AI makers can afford to rely on technologies built and controlled elsewhere. The announcement came late Friday when Anthropic said it had received the US government directive requiring it to suspend access to its recently launched Fable 5 and Mythos 5 models for all foreign nationals, including its own foreign national employees. Oh my goodness. So it's reached a point of national security concern, would be my guess. The move came shortly after the company announced a partnership with Indian IT services giant Tata Consultancy Services to expand enterprise AI adoption in India, underlining how closely the country's AI ambitions have become tied to technologies developed and governed in the US. The whole world is. The world is divided into two camps, really. There's people who use Android, there's people who use iOS, and the majority of the Androids, I think, are Samsung. So you've got US and South Korea. While the broader implications remain unclear, some reports said the initial security concerns were first reported to the government by Amazon CEO Andy Jassy. And the information said the White House is unlikely to extend similar restrictions to other AI companies and is privately blaming Anthropic's handling of alleged jailbreak vulnerabilities. Anthropic has disputed the government's characterization and argued the action should not have been taken. Regardless, the development has triggered debate among Indian founders, investors, and policy experts over whether the country should accelerate efforts to build domestic AI capabilities, deepen investment in open source alternatives, or continue relying on a handful of US frontier model providers. For some, the episode is a wake-up call on technological dependence. For others, it is a reminder that access to increasingly critical AI systems can be shaped by geopolitical decisions beyond India's control. While they're a close ally of ours, as a democracy, that's a good thing. As a very large democracy on China's borders, I would assume that's a very good thing to keep them in our friend circle. But obviously, based upon this, we're not trusting everyone with our AI tech now because we're at a tipping point maybe. India has become one of the most important markets for frontier AI companies. Anthropic and OpenAI have both described the South Asian nation as their second largest market after the US, reflecting its growing importance in the global AI race. There's a lot of very tech-savvy people in India. We all know this. If you've been in the tech industry, there's a lot of Indian people who end up working aside. The companies have already set up their office in India, expanded local hiring, partnerships, and enterprise initiatives in recent months, betting on India's vast base of developers, startups, and businesses to accelerate adoption of their latest technologies. For many in India's technology sector, Anthropic's Friday announcement was about more than just one AI company. It reopened questions about the country's long-term AI strategy and whether India could afford to remain dependent on a small number of foreign AI providers. It completely changes things, said Akrit Vaish, founder of Indian AI venture platform Activate, referring to Anthropic's decision. I think this materially changes the way all of us should be thinking about sovereign AI in India. Vaish told TechCrunch that he woke up on Saturday morning shocked and confused by the announcement and said it strengthened the case for developing domestic AI capabilities. He expects startups to increasingly turn to open source models and plans to encourage companies in his portfolio to reduce their dependence on a small number of frontier AI providers. For some founders, the big concern was what restrictions on former AI access could mean for competitiveness. Vijay Rayapati, co-founder and CEO of Atomic Work, told TechCrunch that the episode highlighted the risks facing startups whose teams span multiple countries if access to advanced AI systems increasingly becomes subject to geopolitical restrictions. Atomic Work has around 25 employees in the US, though much of its product engineering team is based in Bengaluru, India. If your AI team is not made up entirely of US citizens, you are at competitive disadvantage, Rayapati said, arguing that unequal access to frontier AI models could give some companies a significant edge over rivals. The concern comes as parts of India's tech sector are already grappling with questions about how AI could reshape the economics of global talent. This week, US real estate technology company Opendoor shut its Indian office less than 2 years after expanding into the country, with CEO Kaz Najatian citing a push to bring operational work closer to customers in the US and a shift toward smaller AI native teams. While Opendoor did not specify how much of the decision was driven by AI-related efficiencies, the move added to a broader debate about how advances in AI could affect the future of global technology work and what that might mean for India's position as an engineering talent hub. In addition to startups and AI builders, the Anthropic episode also prompted a broader debate among India's technology leaders about dependence on foreign AI infrastructure. Sridhar Vembu, founder of Indian SaaS company Zoho, said the move showed that technology is the ultimate weapon and urged Indian organizations to increasingly embrace smaller and open source models. What can our government do right now? Ensure that orgs in India embrace smaller models, both Indian and Chinese open source ones, Vembu wrote on X. Investor and former Infosys executive Mohandas Pai responded to Vembu on X, arguing that the development highlighted the need for a far more ambitious national AI strategy and calling on the government to substantially increase investment in AI, computing infrastructure, and deep technology. The heck is deep technology? That's a new one. We are way behind and need a national mission to get going quickly, Pai wrote, arguing the government to create an annual 500 billion, I think they use rupees there, which is awesome because that's also the currency used in The Legend of Zelda, around $21 billion, alongside a 2 trillion rupees credit guarantee program to support cloud infrastructure, hardware, and semiconductor development. Pai's proposal would dwarf India's existing AI efforts. In 2024, New Delhi approved the India AI mission with an outlay of 103.72 billion rupees over 5 years, aimed at expanding compute infrastructure, supporting startups, and developing indigenous AI capabilities. Despite growing interest in AI and New Delhi's push to develop domestic capabilities, India remains a relatively small player in frontier model development. Only a handful of startups are pursuing the foundational AI models, including Sarvam, which released open source models earlier this year. However, another high-profile AI startup, Crutrium, pivoted toward cloud and AI infrastructure services after initially positioning itself around foundational model development. Much of India's AI ecosystem has instead concentrated on applications and specialized models built on top of existing foundational models. Recent examples include Avatar AI, which launched a video generation model earlier this week, aimed at providing a lower-cost alternative to offerings from rivals including Google's Veo, Kling, Luma, and Runway. Very cool. Not everyone agrees that the primary challenge is the lack of capital. Responding to Pi's comments, Lightspeed partner Hermat Mohapatra argued that the biggest constraints to building globally competitive AI companies are talent, access to computing resources, and execution, rather than simply the size of the investment companies. There are a few other AI companies doing video as well. XAI is doing pretty good. There's another one called Halulio. That's pretty good. Halulilo. Mohapatra estimated that training a frontier AI model could cost anywhere from hundreds of millions to several $billions, depending on the approach, but said successful AI companies have historically scaled their capital requirements over time as adoption grew. Yet for some policy observers, the implications extend well beyond AI startups or AI providers. Prasanto Roy, a New Delhi-based technology policy expert who advises multinational companies, said the episode would likely reinforce concerns within the Indian government about strategic autonomy, comparing it to the lesson many countries drew from Russia's loss of access to SWIFT and other parts of the global financial system following its invasion of Ukraine. He told TechCrunch that the move was likely to provoke a significant nationalist backlash in India and described it as a poorly considered decision by Washington, with consequences extending far beyond Anthropic itself. Even if this is corrected or reversed, the Anthropic episode shows there's no such thing as a geopolitically neutral foreign LLM, Roy said. American AI models are bound to American geopolitics. Well, they're becoming so smart they can be weaponized now. As far as I've heard from Anthropic's mythos and its ability to expose flaws in systems, enabling anyone to have access to that without some constraints is dangerous. So gifting foreign nations the ability to hack very large scale civilian systems in the United States or anywhere in the world is not a good thing. That's handing a very potent weapon to some underskilled people, perhaps. You're giving them an overpowered advantage. So I guess we're at a stage now where there's a fork in the road. We have to be able to continue to develop AI and make sure it is as capable of understanding us as possible, but also divide the serving of that AI. I guess we probably need some kind of licensing. It's probably the direction they're going to go along. In order to use this product, you probably need to have some kind of licensing clearance, maybe. I don't know if this period of history is going to last long enough for that to be the case. Maybe they're already doing it now. I don't know. But they're clearly ring-fencing it out of India and other nations, or keeping it within the United States. But I wonder if we're going to have a tiered system. Perhaps you can have a publicly accessible AI tools, and then above that maybe you have slightly more destructive stuff, things that can cook up security flaws, and you'd need clearance or certification in order to access that, maybe. Because if you're vibe coding and you're vibe coding something dangerous, like cook up a virus that will take down this or that or whatever, that's a pretty crappy thing to do. And handing that to the public, it's pretty dangerous. So I don't know. Like, for instance, if you have access to more potent AI that can do these things, perhaps you're going to have to resign yourself to being surveilled in the process of using it in order to ensure that you're not using it for some much larger bad thing, I guess. Maybe that will be the only restriction. But I'm not under the illusion that I'm not being surveilled most of the time anyway, as are many of us. There are cameras everywhere. We carry these devices around with us. We call them smartphones. We've got cameras on the front, they've got cameras on the back, we've got microphones everywhere. Yeah. Two things there, surveillance and the increase of AI are going to collide, and they already have probably. But that is it for now. Make sure you hit that like button if you indeed like me. It's very helpful. You can also follow me wherever you're at. But that is it for now. And the only thing I have left to say is, Pigwig, Out.
Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oink, oink, wee, squeal, snort, snort, oinkity, squee. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Snort, snuffle, oink, squee, squeal, wee, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, wee, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, wee, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Squeal, squeal. Snort, shuffle, oink, re-squeal, re-snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, 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 snuffle, re-squeeze, snort, oink, squeal, oink, oink, oinkity, squeeze, squee, re, snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 re, oh. Squeal, squeal, snort, snuffle, oink,